Hey everyone, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tom. I'm the guy behind these YouTube videos. If you do know me, and I've been following my Instagram for a few years, you'll know that I've been collecting Chaos Dwarfs. So yeah, when I got back into the hobby in 2016, 2017, I kind of quickly rediscovered the Chaos Dwarfs, and that kind of became my project for the next few years. And it was a real labour of love, working on this army. So when I did the filming with Rick Priestley back in September last year, I think it was, and we did the Warhammer Fantasy video, obviously in the back of my mind was this book, given Rick wrote the original articles. And thankfully then on the day, Rick was kind enough to film some footage with me, but him talking about, writing the articles and working on that project, and, it was really fun. And then a few months later, I met the Perry twins, and Alan Perry sculpted most of the Chaos Dwarf Big Hat range. So again, I filmed some footage with him, talking about sculpting, and kind of working on that project. So as a Chaos Dwarfs collector, to be able to kind of meet those two guys and talk about this army, was just really rewarding. So really, I just wanted to say I hope you enjoy this as much as I have. And I suppose really just give a bit of a shout out to the kind of wider Chaos Dwarfs community. I think for a long time they were such a niche army, kind of being out of production for a very long time from Games Workshop, and then even the Forge World range being maybe a little beyond some people. But there's some really great painters on Instagram, people who are really passionate about the army and help me out by sending me models or vice versa. And then another wicked community is the Chaos Dwarfs Online Community Hub, which is just a really great discourse, full of really awesome resources and great people. So I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to them. I'll put some links on the video for anyone who wants to go and see. So thank you very much.
Chaos Dwarves. I've been asked to talk a bit about Chaos Dwarves. What I remember of Chaos Dwarves is they were a project that definitely started under the aegis of Brian Ansell. So by the time I got to do any work on them, I think Brian had already had the idea for what Chaos Dwarves were, which was to say a Babylonian inspired imagery. And he'd obviously talked to John Blanche, and John had produced a series of sketches. So between John Blanche and Brian Ansell, the imagery of the Chaos Dwarves had evolved. I don't know what other ideas Brian had for the Chaos Dwarves, if indeed he had any, other than being Babylonian style or Assyrian style evil dwarfs. By the time they were being made in metal, Brian wasn't around. And I don't know whether he was still running the company or whether he'd sold by then. But it was on that cusp. So the whole Chaos Dwarf project is kind of a legacy from the previous version of Warhammer, which would have been the 3rd edition, really, because it came from Brian. But I think by the time we actually had the models and were writing rules for it, 4th edition had come out, because that was relatively quickly, 1992. And I remember in particular, because I'd been running the studio and I was briefing the figure designers, and they had the illustrations from John Blanche. And at the time, as I say, Brian wasn't there. But he was very much interested in this project, because I think he saw it as his last kind of project. And what happened was, I'd phone up Brian, just give him a bit of a heads up on what was going on in the studio, and he would remember he was probably in the Virgin Isles at this time. He would say, "Oh, how's the Chaos Dwarf project going?" I say, oh, it's okay. The Perrys are working on it. They've got they're the fastest designers. They're very, as you know, very skilled designers. They're some of our oldest serving designers. Perrys will be fine. They'll sort it out. And Brian would go a bit quiet and he'd go, I know those Perrys. Those Perrys are obsessed by historical imagery. They will make them so historical that everything will be too small. Everything will be a bit boring. So I think you need to go back and get them to make the hats a bit bigger. And I say, well, they are quite big, Brian. The Perrys have made them quite big, as per the drawings. And Brian said, no, I don't believe you. Go back and make them bigger. So I thought, well, okay. Put the phone down, went to the Perrys. Brian says he wants the hats bigger. The Perrys look at me and there's some disbelief. And I go, just make them make sure they're bigger. And, you know, maybe they weren't quite as big as they could have been. Maybe John's drawings were a little bit understated. You know, these things could have been bigger. The Perrys look at me. There's that sort of, are you an idiot sort of look on their face that they reserve for management. And they dutifully make the hats bigger. Whenever you ask a Perry to make something bigger, his first instinct is always to go, but that's not realistic, that'll look ridiculous. And you go, well, no, do your best, try and make it look good. You know, no, it won't look good, it'll look crap. No, just do your best, make it look good, it'll look crap. And the Perry will dutifully make it look crap because he wants to make a point. And you look at this thing and it looks a bit crap and it's a bit too big. And you've got two choices. You can either go, oh, you were right, it looks crap, or you can go, yep, that's fine, because you're not going to let him win. So you go, yep, that's fine. Get on with it. It's bigger. Oh, looks a bit crap, but never mind. Looks a bit big. So I phone up Brian, or Rod. Brian phones me, I suspect. And I say, I've had the Perrys make the hats bigger, and now they're quite big. And Brian says, I'm not so sure. I know those Perrys. They will have made them too small. And I'm saying, no, they are very, very big, Brian. He says, no, I don't care how big they are, go back and make them bigger. So I go back to the Perrys and I say, anyway, we need bigger hats. They're not big enough. And Perrys look at me with that usual glare of disdain. They go, you want them to look bigger than this? Yeah, that's fine. So the Perrys go, stick more spikes on, they put things on top, they go, put a hat on top of the hat. They put ships in sail on the hat and bull's heads on the hats. Anything they can do to make these hats as big and as possible. Some of these hats are as big as the dwarfs. I think, okay, they've got to be big enough. Eventually this gets done. They all get sent off. They all get moulded, and samples get sent to Brian. And I wonder, I wonder if he likes them. I wonder if they're big enough. And next time he phones me up and we're talking about stuff, and he doesn't mention the Chaos Dwarves at all. He doesn't say anything about them. And at the end of the conversation, I'm going, did you get the Chaos Dwarf? Did you get the Chaos Dwarf samples, Brian? Because I was quite keen that you see them. And he says, yes, I've got them, and I think the hats are big enough. And that's the only time Brian's ever said, well done. And that's why the Chaos Dwarves have got such big hats. And that's how the project came about. Along the way, I think I would have been, I did the background for this. I don't think there was any input from Brian about the background. I think he'd more or less just got the idea of them being what they were. And I worked through the troop types, came up with the idea of doing the hobgoblins, because I thought that was a good opportunity to do a hobgoblin type. And all the gunpowder based weapons. Yes, particularly fine drawing there by Mark Gibbons of the rocket with the engineers with the big rocket hats.
You just hold it up a bit, sorry. There we are, lovely.
You see that? You can always take a picture of it and put it in your... They've got their own magic cards because we couldn't afford to print them any other way. And lots of colour because we were printing White Dwarf pages in colour at the time, so we'd have stolen that. Yeah, the bull tents, the Taurus and the centaurs. Yeah, I had quite good fun with the I thought the idea of the Chaos Dwarves was quite nice. I don't remember who came up with the idea of them turning to stone. That might have been Brian, might have been me, I don't know. You forget, it was a long time ago. The hobgoblins and the sneaky gits and them having, that was definitely me. That's got me written all over it, that has. And a slightly comic element to it. As well as the great cry of to the chaos god Hashut. Hashut, Hashut, bless you, bless you. One of my better gags, I thought. And that was Chaos Dwarfs. Later on, when I did the last thing I did at Games Workshop was a project. The last thing I did at Games Workshop was a project for Forge World, yeah. And ideally, it was going to be a start of a series, but in fact, it ended up with one thing called Tamurkhan. It was called Tamurkhan the Defiler when I wrote it, but I think it got sanitized a little bit. They just released it as Tamurkhan, which was about a chaos incursion. It was the brief I was given by our CEO was to completely reset the Warhammer world, which was what I was going to do with that series of books. But I think they got cold feet and decided they didn't want to reset the Warhammer world in that fashion. And then in retrospect, what they were doing was somebody had decided within the studio to, at that point, to do Age of Sigmar. So me resetting the Warhammer world didn't really work very well, but nonetheless. As part of that project, I went back to Chaos Dwarves and did some new pieces for Forge World, including almost like a big traction engine. I don't know if that got released. Did it get released? It did get released, apparently. I'm glad it got released because it was a fantastic piece of work. And I wrote a 120,000 word background book entirely about that campaign, of which the Chaos Dwarves were a big chunk. And that machine was part of the engines of war which they brought as part of the Chaos Siege train to besiege the old world. So I did get to revisit them, and we had a few models made, which I thought were quite nice. Quite a nice, slightly more serious reinterpretation of the Chaos Dwarves. So the hats are still big, but are they big enough? Is a question. I don't know. And that's all I remember of Chaos Dwarfs.
Chaos Dwarves. Yes. I can't remember how it started. I think it was probably John Blanche's sketches and things, or concepts that probably kicked it off. It's a long time ago, I can't quite remember. But it seems there's so many little things on them that could only be John Blanche, so many little sort of tiny bits of detail that they wanted. And I probably discarded quite a lot of it because you can't make some of the paintings that John does because they're never cast. They never come out of the mould anyway. So I probably simplified them a bit. I definitely sort of sketched out a few myself, mostly for poses and a few ideas as well. I think the onion helmets, I think I probably thought that was quite a good idea. But yeah, I think all I got was the expression, can you make them like Babylonians with big hats? Yeah. Curly beards. Yeah, okay, right, I can do that. So I did. Well, it was just fully orders. But they're quite fun. They're really fun to make actually because I think everybody came past my desk at the time. But bloody hell, what are you making? What on earth are they? And I think it was a bit of a joke around the studio at the time, and I was definitely treating them as a joke. Because I couldn't believe I was making these things. But I made the hats quite big. And then Rick Priestley, who was in the studio manager at the time, and he was getting orders from Brian Ansell. Brian was in America at the time, and so things were being faxed backwards and forwards, pictures, and I think it would be a picture taken and then faxed over to Brian. And he thought the hats weren't big enough. So he told Rick. Rick told me, make the hats bigger. So I made them bigger. And it ended up taller than the actual dwarf itself. Which I thought was quite funny. And everybody else didn't. I think Rick really quite liked them. But Brian didn't. He saw the final thing. He said, are you taking the piss or what? Yeah, no, not really. No, we're just going by orders. Your orders. I didn't write those orders. He did. No, he just wanted to make them bigger and bigger because I think he was afraid I was going to make them too small. But because he hadn't seen them in the hand, he hadn't actually looked at any sort of like that. He just saw photographs. Perhaps it was the angle of the photograph, maybe. Perhaps maybe somebody's shooting from above. It might have made the house look smaller. But anyway, he was outraged how tall they were. But they all went through, and I think they sold quite well, actually.
Was there much, I suppose, in terms of historical influence? Like you mentioned, obviously, the Babylonian.
No. Well, no, not really. Yeah, some Babylonian beards. And definitely around that sort of area, sort of around the face beard. I mean, the hats, I don't know where the hats came from. I think there might be a few pictures of Babylonian gods in really tall hats. But I can't remember if Babylonians wearing that sort of hats. But no, so not a lot of historical influence apart from curly beards and the type of hat, I suppose, roughly based on the god.
Yeah, I think, wasn't the Lamassu, that's I'm sure, like just hearing you say that now, I'm sure there is a Lamassu is a god or some kind of mythical beast with a hat. I don't know.
Is it that? Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's Babylonian god type thing. Yeah, that's right, yeah. I mean, obviously Rick was involved with Savar, so his knowledge of ancient stuff came in as well. So, he would have sort of named a lot of them and come up with quite a few ideas.
I think with that maybe would have been his influence with the Taurus, the giant bull, and the Lamassu. You know, they're almost kind of like creatures of
the mythology.
Yeah, mythology.
Mythology. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Obviously, Babylonians didn't use blunderbusses. Slightly later, but they are tools as well. And they go.
Do you think that would have been a conscious decision on your part, where you've mentioned the onion helmet, and obviously the blunderbuss is quite a bit of a bell-shaped?
Definitely the blunderbuss. I think was I don't know whose idea it was, but influenced by the hats, or the hats influenced about. I think it was one way around because it all fitted in quite nicely. Yeah, into the style of their weaponry and headgear. Yeah, but. They were fun to do. Yeah, it's nice to make creatures as well, the monsters, the Lamassu and the Taurus.
It was the bull centaurs as well.
Oh, bull centaurs as well, yeah, they're all good fun to make. We actually do like making monsters. We used to like making monsters. But I think Trish was sort of sidelined into just making monsters. So most monsters went to her. But occasionally we got to do some. Tim Adcock, I think, made the artillery pieces.
Oh, really?
He would have done
the Earthshaker. And the rocket launcher.
Yeah, he would have done those.
Because again, the Earthshaker's obviously got that kind of bell onion shape. So all kind of
a theme. Yeah, sort of it was round, sort of tall things. Yeah. So all I had to do was a couple of crew for those, so it wasn't really much. Would have taken a couple of days at most, I thought. But Tim would have made the artillery pieces, I think, at the time. Yeah, the scale armor, they're wearing scale armor because around that sort of for thousands of years, pre-BC, scale was one of the main things was used. I mean, Assyrians used it in a big way, and Egyptians in a small way. But so the scale armor was appropriate for the big curly beards, the Babylonian type look. So yes, actually Babylonians in the Assyrian period would have been wearing scale. So yeah, that's why I would have done it. Yeah.
Working on my Chaos Dwarfs army was a real labour of love. It's something I'm incredibly proud of, still to this day. You know, I started seriously collecting them, I think it was about 2017, and pretty much, you know, that's all I worked on for a number of years, model by model, kind of buying, painting, until I kind of got a, you know, a reasonably sized army. I tend to play 6th edition, so I have about just over 2,000 points, going by the Ravening Hordes rule set. And yeah, you know, they're a real fun army. You know, I had a lot of fun working on them, and you know, they're a joy to play with. And I've done a few hobby resources, if that's the right word. You know, I produced a battle report with my friend Kieran against his orcs and goblins, which, you know, was just a really fun thing to do. And then I also wrote just a small article for Warmonger magazine on how I feel they play in 6th edition, but it is just a laugh more than anything. You know, it's nothing too serious. And as I said at the start of the video, then you know, there's a lot of really talented people on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, working on Chaos Dwarfs. So I just figured I would, you know, kind of share a few of these people now, and their armies. You know, some of them just really helped me kind of kickstart my army. In particular, Tom Young, you know, he was kind enough to send me a few models right at the outset, you know, when I started collecting. And then there's other people like Tom Woods. You know, he's got a really great looking Chaos Dwarf army, like really well painted. It's really nice, you know, a really nice color scheme on them, I think. And then the Chaos Dwarf online community obviously has a load of people, not necessarily, you know, big hat collectors. It could be the kind of, you know, Legion of Asgore, or even the older 3rd edition sculpts, but it's a really great community full of, you know, really good resources. So I highly recommend dropping by, you know, if you're ever looking for inspiration, or, you know, they have high definition version of the banners, which is, you know, something that a lot of hobbyists struggle to find, kind of thing. So it is a really great little resource.